Hello, nerds! Thank you for watching Generally Nerdy. This is The Week in Nerdom, your place for daily nerd news videos. Today being Wednesday, we're talking about movie news. And in news, we've got Jay and Silent Bob, Morbius the Living Vampire, Ghostbusters 3. So much is going on in movie news. And then we've got 3 reviews on top of it. So let's get into that intro so we can get into all the stuff. Alright, we're going to breeze through these news headlines real quick. A little bit of depth on some of them, but mostly just going through it. So brace yourself, because here it comes. Jay and Silent Bob Reboot has been officially picked up for distribution by Saban. Apparently they do more than just Mighty Morphin Power Rangers over at Saban. I didn't know this until this happened, and then I looked into it, and yeah, they've got quite a few movies that aren't children's fighting shows. So yeah, Kevin Smith Reboot, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot is going to see worldwide distribution through Saban Entertainment. Next, we got a release date for Morbius the Living Vampire, July 31st of 2020. We will be seeing Jared Leto as Morbius the Living Vampire, and I still don't know how I feel about that. It's just a weird thing to say. Keeping with the release date trend, Jason Reitman, I think it's Reitman. Jason Reitman has announced the Ghostbusters 3 release date is going to be July 10th of 2020. Next is Doctor Strange 2. We got, it's not a casting, it's more the creative team announcement. C. Robert Cargill, who wrote the script for the first movie, has just been brought back in to write the script for the second movie. Next, we've got 2 bits about Batman, kind of more, but we'll get into the more a little bit later in the episode. First is the Matt Reeves Batman movie. It has been announced that it's going to be an early iteration of the Caped Crusader, so Ben Affleck will not be playing Batman in Matt Reeves' next movie. So they have started casting for Batman. And there is a release date that has been officially announced, June 25th of 2021. So we've got 2 years to see what's going to happen with this movie. And then we're talking a little bit of animated Batman in Batman Beyond. Geeks World Wide is saying that Warner Brothers is trying to capitalize on Sony's success with the Spider-Verse movie, so they're going to do a theatrically released animated Batman Beyond movie. Casting and everything like that is associated is still not been announced, and this actually is technically a rumor, so, take it with a grain of salt as you will. Keeping with the animated movies from Warner Brothers, we are talking about Mortal Kombat. The live-action Mortal Kombat movie recently got some interesting updates, but we're talking about the animated Mortal Kombat movie. That is right, they're doing an animated, officially, this is not a rumor, officially have announced an animated Mortal Kombat movie. Very likely to be released direct to video, like they've done with most of their animated DC movies. We have some casting announcements for this animated movie. We have Darren DePaul, Fred Tatasciore, Gray Griffin, Ike Amati, Kevin Michael Richardson, Patrick Seitz, Robin Atkin-Downs, Steve Blum, Jordan Rodriguez, Joel McHale, and Jennifer Carpenter. We don't know who any of those are going to be, save for potentially Steve Blum and Patrick Seitz, who were Sub-Zero and Scorpion, respectively, in previous games. So that's very likely who they're going to be in this movie. But the rest of them, very much still up in the air. Who do you want to voice your favorite character in the animated version of Mortal Kombat? Let's have that conversation down in the comments below. Next, we're talking about Teen Titans Go versus Teen Titans. Apparently, this movie is actually happening. Kari Payton was talking to comicbook.com and said that all of the voice cast are done recording their parts. So at this point, we're waiting on animation and then distribution to get their hands on it. And so we're very potentially going to be seeing this movie this year if they're already done doing their voices. It'll probably be towards the end of the year, but still, 2019 is going to be a very interesting year for all kinds of comic media. No announcement as to how this movie is going to be distributed, whether it's going to be digital or DC Universe or straight to video or what. Very likely not going to be theatrically released, though very potentially a DC Universe app exclusive. Next, if you follow the link down in the description, there is a Hobbs and Shaw full-length trailer, not the one you saw at the Super Bowl. This one's longer. And apparently Idris Elba is a supervillain. So we have Jason Statham, The Rock, and Idris Elba doing a movie together, and it's a Fast and Furious spin-off. There's so much weird about this. But go check out the trailer because, Idris Elba, for no other reason besides that. And then I said we were going to come back around to Batman, so we are now coming back around to Batman. This is our last bit of news for the week. I have a new source that has not proved itself just yet, so I don't know how much of this to believe, but there is a rumor that just because Ben Affleck is not going to be in the next Matt Reeves movie does not mean he is not going to be Batman going forward. We're just getting a prequel, so it's a younger Batman by 20 years. This movie is going to be 20 years before the events of BVS and the Justice League movie. So you can't have Ben Affleck play himself 20 years ago. So they're casting somebody else. But Ben Affleck is still supposedly going to be our quote-unquote present-day Batman, which is weird. And this present-day Batman is going to appear in 4 movies coming up. So potentially cameos from Affleck in the Matt Reeves movie. Also, we have the Suicide Squad 2 happening. We have the Birds of Prey movie happening. So much stuff that's happening in what should be considered the present day of the DCEU. So this actually might have some legs because there haven't been any other announcements as to who potentially is going to be playing Batman, and they're not going to have whoever they cast in Matt Reeves' movie play Batman in those movies because his movie takes place 20 years before the present day. So if you think about it, it kind of makes freaking sense. And then this source is also saying that Henry Cavill still is not out as Superman. In fact, Henry Cavill too is going to be appearing in 4 more movies as Superman. So, what if that means the Shazam cameo has been figured out? I don't know if the Shazam cameo even counts towards those 4 movies. I don't know, but that is the rumor, and anything beyond that is uber speculation. So that is going to end this week's news update. Now let's kick into the reviews real quick. Before we move into the reviews, though, guys, I have to remind you about the Patreon. Patreon.com/generallynerdy. That is the place to go to get all of your extra nerdy bits. There are 5 tiers. You can jump on for just $1 a month is the lowest tier, and that dollar gets you early access to almost all of the videos and a monthly Discord where we talk about the upcoming previews issues for comic books. Again, that's patreon.com/generallynerdy. 5 tiers. The higher you go up, the more stuff you get. Everything from what I just listed to a second Q&A Discord session every month. And then all the way up to producer credits on every episode that I produce. So go check it out, patreon.com/generallynerdy. And now, let's review some stuff. We have 3 movies to review this week. 2 of them are going to be super quick. The first is going to be Groundhog Day because this Monday was Groundhog's Day, so it seems only fitting. Bill Murray is a freaking national treasure. This is probably one of my favorite comedies ever. there's so little wrong with this movie. Yes, I understand that it's 6 a.m. where they are supposed to be. It would not be that bright outside. But really beyond that, and maybe some technical errors throughout where you can see the reflection of crew in some mirror, or some glass rather, there's so much to love about this movie. So we're gonna just skip all of the gushing and go right into the scores for this. General score, we're looking at a 95 out of 100. Harold Ramis, even though he and Bill Murray were fighting pretty much the entire way through this movie, really pulled out not only a great performance from Bill Murray, but so much of the direction, the actual what the director does in the chair kind of stuff, the shots, the cinematography, all of that stuff is so well done in this movie. And it doesn't need to be because it's a comedy. Or does it? Obviously he did something right, because this movie still holds up. Still holds up. And it came out in like 96 or something like that. Next up is the story score. And story, we're looking at a 98 out of 100. This, I feel like, is due in large part to the fact that Bill Murray had a lot to do with the writing. He and the writer were the writer of the screenplay, and I might be misremembering this to some degree, but the writer of the screenplay came with one draft to Ramis, and Ramis gave it to Murray, and Murray said, I need to change some of this, because Murray was going through some personal stuff and blah, blah, blah. We're not going to get into that kind of detail. But, so Murray flew out to LA with the writer, and they spent, I believe it was a week, rewriting this script together, and the rewrites really honed it and just turned it into all of the things that Bill Murray does great. You've got the loud Bill, you've got introspective Bill, you've got serious Bill at certain points. Just all of the facets of that Bill Murray can bring, he did bring. 98 out of 100 is great. Next is the atmosphere. We're looking at a 92 out of 100. I'm just going to try and avoid the gushing and go right through these scores. The last bit is enjoyability, is a 98 out of 100. We're looking at a 383 total for this movie. Like I said, Bill Murray is a national treasure. If you really haven't seen this movie by now, you should, and that's all I've got to say about that. Next, we're talking real quick about the recently made fan film. Yes, I get into even that stuff sometimes, and the only reason I'm talking about this is because fan films have actually kind of we've been seeing an uptake in them, partially due, I'm sure, to the Star Wars fan film that was all over Nerd News a couple of weeks ago. If you watch The Quartering, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, the real quick rundown, the Star Wars theory guy made a short Star Wars film that he got permission through one branch of Disney to do, and then another branch of Disney copyright struck his YouTube channel. Even though he wasn't monetizing and he had permission to do what he did, they still filed a copyright strike against him, and it was this big ordeal. At this point, though, it's been taken care of. The copyright strike has been taken down, so his video is back up, and it's got a lot. I'll put the link to that in the description, because that is much better than what we're talking about right now, and that's the Moon Knight fan film. Link to this is also in the description, and boy, does this not is not very good. This is not entertaining. I understand it's a fan film, and I understand they probably put almost no money into this movie, and it's only 18 minutes long. But the Star Wars, again, because the Star Wars thing is to the level that it's making everyone want to do fan films, that's the rubric to which you have to hold yourself, and this is not even halfway up that high. So we have issues with the source material, in that they make Mark Spector like schizophrenic or multiple personality disorder, something. It's very, very hard to follow the story as well. So there's that element. There's just the crazy violence. I understand Moon Knight is a slightly more violent character than, say, Batman, but this was a little extreme. We're just going to jump into the scores for this one real quick as well. General score, we're looking at a 60 out of 100. There is some interesting technical aspects to this, but not enough to salvage all of the poor technical aspects of this. The color grade made it difficult to see some of what was going on. Just poor choices all around. Next, we're talking about the mythology. I've already kind of given some of this away because, again, they make Mark Spector seem like he's at least got multiple personalities. They make no mention of his military training. There is only one level to the character, it seems, or two levels rather. He's either brooding for no apparent reason or raging for no apparent reason. Just not, and I'm not super familiar with Moon Knight, but the bit of him that I am familiar with, the little bit that I have read of his, that's not the character I read in the comic books. So that mythology, we're looking at a 55 out of 100. And then on the story side of things, I don't even know where to start. You can't follow this because of the nature of the main character having multiple personalities for some reason. There's a whole lot of weird in the first half of this movie, and you don't even see Moon Knight. You see Mark Spector or whoever he's pretending to be in any given scene. But you don't see the actual character in costume until almost the end of the film, which could be a good thing if done correctly. This was not. This story was difficult to follow. The dialogue was poorly written. The story is getting a 50 out of 100 for all of those reasons. And then enjoyability. Is this worth watching? No. No, it really isn't. I actually kind of wish I had my 18 minutes back. 50 out of 100 for enjoyability, giving us a grand total of 215 out of 400. That I didn't think I could get lower than the blue face score we did on Monday, but there it is. And then our last movie is Velvet Buzzsaw on Netflix. Just released on the 1st, so I watched it the other day, and I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I feel about this movie. This comes to us from the same guy who did Nightcrawler, Dan Gilroy. I'm only familiar with these two movies, though he has done a few other ones I've heard of before, just nothing I've actually seen. So I'm not super familiar with his work outside of these two movies, this, Velvet Buzzsaw, and Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler I really dug. It was dark, and there was still some comedy to it, but it was also pretty twisted and just something new and interesting and different. Velvet Buzzsaw wants to do that while also being a social commentary / parody at times, and it can't really make up its mind which direction it wants to go. There is still some gold in this movie. The cinematography is done very well. It is beautiful to look at. The color grading on this is a lot of saturated colors. It's very visually something similar to what I would have done as a cinematographer. I feel like there's a lot in this that really catches the eye very, very well. So it's got that going for it. Jake Gyllenhaal is very strange, man. The acting performances in this go from okay to melting into the character, and that's just Gyllenhaal, and it's literally in one scene. He'll go from, wow, that's still Jake Gyllenhaal on screen, to, Yeah, okay, yeah, that's totally Jake Gyllenhaal on screen. So it's really inconsistent. I feel like that's kind of the word to best describe this movie. There's times where it's a really intriguing horror idea, and then there's times where it's a really decent social commentary on the art world, but it never the twain shall meet, and we're going to jump into scores. So the general score for this is a 72 out of 100. The little bits of brilliant cinematography are kind of blink and you'll miss at moments. Really, there's a whole lot more just kind of fill the frame kind of stuff. Not anything that's super visually interesting. But there are still those moments where it's, wow, that shot is really cool, or that camera movement was very well done. Things along those lines. So we're looking at a 72 out of 100 for general score. As for the story, I feel like the story itself is a really interesting idea, and at times is pretty well executed when you're just talking about what the story they're trying to tell you is. So 85 out of 100 for story, because that is probably the best part of this is its unique take on horror, or it's really more of a thriller than anything. And then we get to the other side of the storytelling, and that's the writing. Writing, we're looking at a 70 out of 100, because that, I feel like, is where this dichotomy feeling comes from of pick a direction, choose a lane, and go. Just, it is possible to do both a horror that is a social commentary with some humor, but this didn't pull that off very well. It pulled it off better than some, but it could have been so much better. So again, 70 out of 100 for writing. And then enjoyability. Is this worth a watch? Sure. As long as it's in the background and you've got more important things that you're doing, like research for your YouTube channel, I could justify recommending a watch for that reason. But if you're like putting mental capacity into this, you're going to be kind of disappointed. And that is where this episode ends this week, guys. What did I miss? What should we talk about next week? Let me know in the comments down below. If, though, you want to go deeper into the conversation, then you can jump over to the website, generallynerdy.net. That is the place that you can get all of the freebies, all of the social media links, and the link to the general store so you can get your nerdy swag. Again, that's generallynerdy.net. If this is your first time at Generally Nerdy, then definitely click that subscribe button. Follow me if you're watching on Facebook. Or if you like this episode, click the like button. There's also a dislike button. Let me know if you didn't like the episode for whatever reason. Jerk. If you're falling behind on your nerd news and you want to catch up, you can click or tap that box right there to the left of my face to do that. But before we go, do all of the things and click the boxes and whatever and all that. Guys, you gotta always remember that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably here.